Hello and welcome to Device recommendations for the surprise special draw set for Golden Week 2025. Alright, so we have this new Suptix right now. It is available until May 12th. We do have free pulls at the moment, so as always, I recommend waiting out the free pulls. I can't remember exactly when they end, but you should be able to wait with your ticket for as long as possible before choosing, because if you're pulling on the regular banner, you might draw who you want to ticket. So always better to wait for that if possible. Reminder that you have until 24 hours after the Suptix expires to choose your target. Apparently this goes for longer, but I've personally never tested it myself. So once again, if you guys are brave enough to test that, you can go ahead. All right, so for this particular ticket, I will be mainly focusing on the upcoming Fire Guild War. So I'll be talking about those choices, and I will also talk about some of the new things introduced in this ticket. Pretty much all the old other characters, they're still relevant, so you can check out my old video for that. Link in the upper right card there. Check out that video if you want to know the options for some of the other elements as well. All right, so without further ado, let's get right into it. As always, I will be using this format here, there we go, where I'm just going to separate things by category in what I reckon you should choose. So first up, the top pick for this particular Suptix and for Fire is Ragazzo. Ragazzo, extremely good character. Basically, looking at his kit, it might not seem that way just because you look at his kit and then this skill here, it knocks him out after the effect ends. But the thing that Ragazzo does and excels at is for the 2 turns he's alive for, he does a huge amount of damage. He does a huge amount of damage, and then once he dies, it enables someone like Frau or another backline character to come in, right? For your full autos. So in the upcoming Fire Guild War, you can expect to see this guy in many full auto strategies just because he does so much damage for those couple turns where he's alive. Like, all these skills and all these effects just do so much. So he is very much like the epitome of, like, I guess not glass cannon because it's impossible for him to die during these 2 turns, but basically he flames out, no pun intended, after doing this huge burst turn at the start of the fight. And yeah, the fact that he synergizes in bringing in evokers or potentially Icarus, I'm not sure if we'll see Icarus. We'll talk about Icarus later, but yeah, since he does that as well, I think he's a very, very valuable pick and my top recommendation if you don't have the character with this surprise ticket. The other thing he can also do is fit in some OTK teams because he does an unworldly charge attack here, and also he has guaranteed triple attacks. And also, he does 300% fire damage to foes as well. So he fits for both types of OTK, charge attack and for normal attack, because he nukes on his orders and has guaranteed triple attacks. This character basically does a lot of different things. So Ragazzo, top pick. If you don't have him and you want to pick someone for Fire Guild War, highly recommend Ragazzo. All right, let's move on to the sustain category. So I have 2 characters here. I have Satyr and I have Anthuria. So both these characters are mainly here to serve that healing and debuff removal sort of role. You are unlikely to see them in anything outside of full auto, so you expect for these characters to only be used in full auto. Satyr does debuffs, very nice debuffs. Does this cleanse here, which does a 2-turn cut to debuff durations, and also has a sub. She dodges all here, and the main important thing here is that when a foe uses a special attack, she will activate the Innocent Heart ability, and it will also end cooldown for this, so she can tank like the next big attack. She's been useful a couple of guild balls in a row for full auto, so I expect that to sort of remain. This sort of ability here, the 2-turn cut, ends up being very, very useful. Now, on the other hand, we have Anthuria, who recently got her full limit break, her 5-star uncap. And this character is sort of a dodge tank as well. She doesn't have a substitute, but instead she has high hostility. I believe it is... where is it? Yeah, this one, plus 80 hostility. And basically on her Ogi, she will activate this particular skill here. So she acts as a charge bar battery as well. Oh, sorry, not this skill, this one. Yeah. So the dodge all here. And then this skill acts as a charge bar battery too. So she can fit in some kinds of OP teams as well. But the main reason you would really use this character is that whenever she dodges, she restores everybody's HP and she removes one debuff from fire allies too. The Dispel Cancel is nothing to scoff at also. And she gets dodged through this skill here, which is activated on Ogi, and obviously by clicking the skill as well. So there's that. And she will passively buff the team too. So Satyr provides a little bit more debuffs and a bit more cleansing ability just because it's activated on special attacks, whereas Anthuria's is reliant on her dodging, which is up a fair amount of time, but it's still, you know, it is still dodging. Maybe it might not be up on the turn you really need it. But in exchange, she does provide a lot of strong buffs like this attack, defense up, the supplement CA here as well, and also hype itself is a very, very good buff. So something to consider. I think both these characters are pretty good for that supporting sustain role. Alright, and for this Dispel category, this time I have two characters. We have Elmott and Barawa and Sarya. So both characters here I think are more budget options. I do think if you have more premium stuff, you are unlikely to need these, but I do think they're worth talking about regardless. Elmott will most likely see use in some OTK setups, and also in some budget full auto setups. The main reason that he will be used is this particular passive here. When a foe uses a special attack, activate his first skill, and his first skill is a Dispel. And if he has 10 or more buffs, it activates twice. So this particular skill in the past has been used in OTKs as well, and also in full autos, and I expect that to remain. I do think we have gotten much better Dispel characters since, but once again, as a budget option, he works completely fine. Next up, we have Barawa and Sarya. Now this is sort of a fun pick, but the main thing here is that on their Ogi, they reset the cooldown for these two skills. And the thing here is that these two skills firstly, this skill here has a chance to end immediately. Like the cooldown has a chance to end immediately. So this ends up with some funny situations where you just click it a bunch of times and you get charge bar again, and then you Ogi, and then that resets the skill, and then it like loops around. But more importantly, he resets his Dispel over here. And then his third skill here is a 5-hit damage nuke. It does a fair amount of damage, and it dispels 5 times. And if you successfully remove a buff, then it ends the other skills cooldowns as well. So basically, Barawa and Sarya, they're a funny skill meme character who happens to have a ton of dispels. I do think on a reliability scale, Elmott is much better, but I thought it's worth mentioning. All right, next. We have some miscellaneous character. For this, I will put Clarisse and Hekate. So Clarisse is a character who doesn't dispel herself, but she interacts with dispels. And the main thing here is this particular skill. Auto activates when a fire ally removes a buff. It is a debuff res down and a delay. Delay most notably tends to work in Guild War. In fact, I don't know if there's a Guild War boss where delay doesn't work. So delay tends to be quite useful, especially for some of those harder full autos, like NM 200 plus sort of thing. And then she does have a dispel here too, but the main thing is that she auto nukes here and has some nice debuffs over here as well. She ends up buffing MC with this particular skill, and it just makes MC stronger. So making MC stronger always quite nice. So a decent full auto option with her FLB. And then we have Hekate, who is mostly a skill damage nuker. If you have like Summer Magisa or Valentine's Agleveil, she works very similarly. She has an S1 which debuffs. She has an S2 which buffs with these particular things. And the more crush she has, the more hits and the more buffs she gives. And the thing that's nice here is that these effects are all really, really nice to have. Now, that being said, they're not fully reliable because it is a 7-turn cooldown, although the cooldown is cut upon Oging. It might not be up often enough for it to be useful, but regardless, it will be a fair amount of damage. This particular skill won't really activate in full auto, but it's something you can click at the start of the fight if you really care. Charm is something that sometimes works, and if it does work, it'll be nice. If it doesn't, oh well. The main thing you're really using Hekate for is for her skill damage, the debuffs, and these buffs here. So something to consider, that a full auto skill damage option. All right, and then I have this niche Agni tier here, and what I mean by this is that if you're a Magna player, you probably don't need to worry about this, except maybe Icarus. But basically, these characters are mostly here for their weapons. So if you're a Magna player, probably ignore these three, with the exception of maybe Icarus. The reason I'm on the fence about Icarus is that he synergizes really well with number one Ragazzo, because Icarus has this passive where if he switches to a main ally, you get Hellfire Crest. And the reason you want the crest is because you want to click this particular skill, which is a really, really, really strong buff here. 90% echo, double strike, debuff immunity, blah, blah, blah. But the main thing are these first two lines. In the past, he's actually been used for some manual burst as well. So if you want that manual burst option, and if you're worried about, like, if you want to cover all your options, definitely get Icarus. I'm just not sure we'll see him with all the recent fire stuff we've gotten, like Wamdus, for example. But yeah, regardless, he is an option to consider. But the reason I put him in the niche Agni tier is because of his weapon, Dreadful Flame Sword. This weapon is, funnily enough, with Wamdus, who we were just talking about, has seen a lot of usage recently because it gives medium HP and stamina. So it's a really efficient grid slot. And not only that, it gives the attack and the triple attack. The triple attack has been useful in covering some of those multi-attack situations as well. So this weapon has become a pretty good niche one-of in your grid for Agni. Moving on. Lilele, sort of very similar. Her weapon gives crit, so it helps cover that crit that you're missing, that you're getting from things like Overrider if needed. But the other thing is that it gives HP, once again for Wamdus, and it has this big stamina mod. So another niche Agni weapon, a one-off copy. And then finally we have Baal, and this guy gives Trium, so multi-attack option, crit, again covers crit options, and then attack here. So this is much more multi-attack and less raw damage, but yeah, another option here. Once again, don't consider these characters for their weapons unless you are Agni and you want to cover all your options. Icarus is the only one, as maybe you're a Magna player, you should maybe consider, but it's niche, and since it's not guaranteed, it's hard for me to recommend, especially once again with the new fire and burst options we got. All right, and then in the new characters, we've got two that I want to talk about, which is Tsukuyomi and Feena. I'll get Feena out of the way first, because basically for Feena, it's her character's like it's serviceable. It's a permanent character. There's nothing too special going on. But the bow, if you're a Zeus, it might be a one-off copy. It gives medium attack and crit, and then the multi here. It has been used in some Zeus grids. Once again, don't consider this for its weapon unless you're a invested Zeus player. And then Tsukuyomi has been seen here and there for some dark solos, and her kit is pretty well rounded for some of the like harder, like maybe nightmare full autos as well, just because this particular buff seems pretty good. It's free CA supplemental damage taken reduced, and then one turn cut to debuff durations. So, you know, like some of the sustain characters up above in the fire section, like just having a buff like this is really nice for Guild War. And then like these buffs over here, also very nice. So yeah, pretty good sustain option for the dark here, if you want to start investing in your dark. All right, and yeah, once again, like I said before, any of the other element characters I've covered in my older videos, so I won't talk about them again here. I'll leave the link here on the screen somewhere for the older video, and then check out some of the fun side content, GBF adjacent stuff we've been doing as well. I will be uploading a new Jeopardy episode and a new auction episode soon, so Like and subscribe if you want to see those things. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye. Bye-bye.